Yeah, just a quick review of the new Encyclopedia of Modern Bodybuilding by Arnold Schwarzenegger, probably the most famous bodybuilder there ever was. Um, this is a very heavy book and it has a lot of pages in it. I mean, it's thick and it's heavy. Honestly, I think if you can't afford a gym membership, you can just take the book and lift it and get in good shape. But anyway, the book is actually divided up into sub books. So I'll go over three of them just to give you an idea what's in the book, see if it's something you're interested in. I'll start with book one, is Introduction to Bodybuilding. It has 5 chapters in it. It talks about the evolution and history of bodybuilding, the ABCs of bodybuilding, the training experience. Fourth chapter is the gym, and the fifth chapter is getting started. Book two is training programs. It has 7 chapters. Chapter one is basic training principles. Two is learning your body type. Three is the basic training program. Four is advanced training principles. Five is building a quality physique, which is the advanced training program. And six is a competition training program. And then seven is mind over matter. Book three is basically body part exercises, and they don't really leave much out. It goes over the shoulder, chest, back, arms, thighs, and so on. So as you can see, this is actually an encyclopedia. It really is an encyclopedia. It covers just about every aspect of bodybuilding that you can think of, and it's based upon Arnold Schwarzenegger, his experiences with his years of training. So pretty reliable source. So if you want to get into bodybuilding, or even if you want to just get started with bodybuilding, I think this is a good resource just to get a lot of information, about the world of bodybuilding, and just kind of get you pointed in the right direction, when it comes to training. Now, if you do start training, a lot of people, when they start lifting weights, they run into shoulder problems, and some people even have like a torn rotator cuff. Another good resource for people, for weight training people, is the 6-minute torn rotator cuff solution. This one's for seniors. If you do even have a shoulder problem in general, you'll find that if you just do nothing but strengthen your rotator cuff, a lot of shoulder pain and a lot of shoulder problems are going to go away. That's basically because the shoulder is a very shallow ball and socket joint, and it depends mostly on the muscles to stabilize it. And basically it's your rotator cuff, this group of 4 muscles that really stabilize the ball and socket joint of your shoulder. That's unlike the hip, which has a deep ball and socket joint. It doesn't depend quite as heavily on the muscles. But you'd be surprised, any kind of pain you're having, strengthen your rotator cuff first. You'll find it goes a long way in treating shoulder pain, or even mysterious shoulder pain, because you get more stability in there, things get less aggravated, pain goes away. But if you do have a rotator cuff tear, like a lot of bodybuilders do, this is an excellent resource. Just real briefly, it goes over what exactly is a rotator cuff. If you're a visual learner, you'll like this. There's tons of pictures in here. This is basically just an introductory chapter on what each of the rotator cuff muscles do, their lines of pull, that kind of thing. Part 2 is a question and answer section, answers you need to know. So if you have torn your rotator cuff or think you have a rotator cuff problem, this will be a really important chapter for you. What are the symptoms of a rotator cuff tear? Any special arm maneuvers that indicate you might have a tear? Where does it tear at? Goes over... Are there different kinds of rotator cuff tears? Here's a good one. I have a rotator cuff tear and I'm in a lot of pain. I need surgery, right? Well, a lot of people think that, but it's not necessarily true. Now, the book answers this question, as it does with all its questions. Very evidence-based book with studies. So here they're looking at studies basically where you take a bunch of people with a rotator cuff tear, okay? They measure the size of the tear, and then they run a pain scale, like a visual analog scale, and they see, how bad are these people hurting? So you have, say, maybe a group of 100 people with torn rotator cuffs. We know the size of their tears, how bad they're hurting. Well, what they find in these kind of studies is that you actually have people, you can find a certain amount of people that actually have large rotator cuff tears that have no pain at all. So you can have an asymptomatic rotator cuff tear. Meaning you can have a big old tear and no pain, which means something else could be causing your pain. That's why you really don't want to jump into like surgery just using pain alone. I got a rotator, I'm in a lot of pain. Well, not necessarily, because you could have an asymptomatic tear and there could be something else that's really the cause of your problem. What will happen if I leave my rotator cuff tear alone? Here again, it goes over studies where people, they take groups of people that have a rotator cuff tear that don't have any treatment for it. They follow them over like 5 or 10 years. What happens to us? Does it get better, same, worse? Probably the best question in the book: how does exercise compare to surgery when it comes to treating a torn rotator cuff? Well, the only way you're going to figure that out scientifically is by going by the randomized controlled trials. If you want to prove something in medicine that it's effective, you do a randomized controlled trial. This book has compiled all the results of the randomized controlled trials where it comes to rotator cuff repairs versus surgery. And basically, that's where you say take 100 people with rotator cuff tears, 50 you randomly assigned to surgery, the other 50 you randomly assigned to a good exercise program, and then you follow them over time. 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. There's some really good follow-up, long-term follow-up studies. And who does better over, like, in 2 years? Who does better? The people that did exercise alone, or the people that had the surgery? Basically, to make a long story short, you're going to end up at the same place, whether you had surgery or whether you don't. That's according to the randomized controlled trials. And it has exercises. Basically, there's 3 different levels, beginning at where you're at. If you have an acute tear, you can hardly move your arm, you start at the beginning one. If you can do more, or you don't have any problems, you want to avoid a rotator cuff problem, they do have an intermediate and advanced program. So another really good resource for bodybuilders. But yeah, look, if you're starting to get into weightlifting or bodybuilding, the sport of bodybuilding, I think this is like really, one of the best books you could pick up and try. So check it out.